Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show.
What?
I'm trying to find my ring.
What?
I am trying to find my ring. Move. Let me look right here. Do you even care?
Yeah, but I don't know where.
Perfect. Thanks.
What?
Okay, so this is a scene that a lot of people might be able to relate to, either from one side or the other, where your partner might be playing video games a lot and you don't like to play video games as much as they do, and you feel sometimes neglected. Headphones, this kind of thing. Sometimes I listen to a lot of podcasts, by the way, and when I'm just walking around the house, I'll just be listening to podcasts, and my wife will say something to me, and then I'll say, oh, "Wait, what?" And she doesn't appreciate that. Most of the time, she's fine with it, but occasionally she hits a wall, and she will say, "You and your podcasts all the time," because it's a barrier between me and the outside world, and it can be hurtful to just be like, and annoying to just be like, every time I say something, I have to pause and then wait for you to notice me and then take your headphones off. So it's a bother for sure. And then from Zied's point of view, and I guess from my experience, and sometimes my wife is listening to things as well, and I have to get her attention. And I can't tell because she wears those Apple in-ear things. And she has long hair, so I don't even know. And I'll just be talking to her, and I'll be like, "What's going on?" Anyway, so it's a normal part of life. How do we cope with this? What do we do? He is wanting to play a game. He's in the middle of something. Maybe he's even playing with other people who depend on him. And if you play video games, you might be able to relate to that. Currently, me and Umberto are actually playing Valheim. Valheim, I think it's pronounced. And we're having a blast playing. It's kind of like Minecraft and Skyrim put together. It's really easy to play, and it's kind of funny at times. But so if I was playing with Umberto and something was coming up, I can't just pause the game, because the game, you literally can't pause it, especially when you're playing with someone else. Anyway, so maybe you're in a situation like that. Now, from her point of view, she is looking for her engagement ring, and she is signaling to him. She's not asking explicitly, "Can you help me?" And this is maybe I don't talk about this a lot, actually. So Rebecca came. Let's rewatch that, and let's take note of exactly what Rebecca is saying and see if it's reasonable for Zied to understand what she's trying to communicate to her.
Hours locked down, they have agreed to host us for our wedding.
But now I have lost my engagement ring that Zied gave me in the Sahara. And honestly, I feel like I just can't catch a break. Babe, I'm trying to find my ring. Have you seen it?
Okay, so the first thing she says is, "I'm trying to find my ring. Have you seen it?" Now, he hasn't heard that. And no harm, no foul there. And then she is frustrated. She turns, "Hey." So far, he hasn't heard anything yet. He doesn't know what she's saying. What I'm trying to evaluate is, as soon as he's able to hear her, is it clear to him that she wants, because I think she does, she wants him to put the game down and help her find the ring. And often in relationships, or any relationship, we will be passive in our requests of other people. And so sometimes when people are in conflict, I ask to be more direct, to be very clear. "Honey, I would like you to put the game down and help me find my ring. That would make me feel good." We're not direct. Usually we're passive in our requests. We will say, "Have you seen my ring?" And the logical answer from Zied is, "Nope, haven't seen it, back to game." Whereas if she said, "Honey, can you put the game down and help me find it, because I'm freaking out and I would like your help because I don't know what to do, and maybe 4 eyes are better than 2 to find this thing," that would be a more direct thing, and I'm guessing Zied would be fine with that. Or at the very least, Zied might say, "Honey, I know you want me to help, but just give me 5 minutes." It'd be more of a direct conversation about what she needs and what she wants. So let's see, once he hears what she is saying.
What?
I'm trying to find my ring.
What?
I am trying to find my ring. Move. Let me look right here.
Okay, so by the time he heard her, he heard, "I'm trying to find my ring, move." And she's being kind of hostile in this moment. or tense. Maybe not hostile, but she's frantic. In her voice, she's, I think, trying to communicate, I'm freaking out right now. So from his point of view, he might feel like, okay, she's freaking out about the ring, and I didn't lose the ring. Why did she lose the ring? It's not my fault. She'll eventually find it. She wants me to move. Okay, I'll move. And also, I'm getting kind of an edge from her in this moment, which I don't like that kind of thing from her. And unless she asks me something specific, I'm not going to respond. So we want to be more direct, and also we want to be nicer to people. It's okay that he plays video games with headphones. And if you're not a video gamer, if you're not a gamer, then you might have so that's what I wanted to get to was a lot of people will actually, according to research, identify video game addiction as one of the reasons why they're getting a divorce, actually, why they're breaking up. And let me address that for a second, because now might be a good time to talk about it. There is such a thing as video game addiction, absolutely, in the same way that there's gambling addiction, shopping addiction, these kinds of things. These are what we call behavioral habitual addictions instead of chemical or substance abuse addictions, in that the behavior has all the same hallmarks as chemical addiction, substance addiction, where you play video games to the point where it interferes with your life. You have anxiety if you try to put it down. Your relationships will suffer. Your health will suffer. Maybe your finances will suffer, or your work will suffer. Or you have an uncontrollable itch to just constantly be playing video games. You have shame about it. You try to hide it in the same way that with alcohol, you can't put it down. You need it. You turn to it as your best friend. It interferes with your life. It interferes with your health. It interferes with your job. People with video games can have an addiction for sure, but it's kind of rare. And a lot of people are accused of video game addiction when they're not actually addicted to, they don't have a compulsive problem. Usually when I treat people, because they'll come to me and say, my husband has a video game addiction, what I usually find when I investigate is that the relationship has had problems for many years, maybe even since they started in a relationship. And each person does something to manage the conflict. One person might try to get conversations going, but in a hostile way. Another person might work a lot. Another person might drink a lot to cope with the conflict. And another person might play video games a lot to escape the conflict. Video games are a recreation, like reading a book or watching television or watching YouTube. It's something that people do for fun. I think that's quite obvious. Anyway, so when I would help the couples with their communication, help them with their conflict resolution, help them bond a little bit more, help them feel more secure, more safe, more attachment secure, the video game behaviors would lessen because the individual playing a lot of video games didn't need to turn to that, one, as an escape from what feels to be a hopeless, conflictual relationship, and the partner who isn't playing video games is less likely to look at. So when you are upset at your partner and you're hurt and you've had distance and you're having bad feelings about that, maybe even for days, weeks, months, and every day you see your partner playing video games, it's easy to triangulate the video games. It's easy to draw the video games in. You hear me talking about triangles. When a third party is triangulated into two people are conflicting, we will pull in a third person, but we can also pull in a third element, an idea. Like we can pull in the weather. For example, when two people meet and they're not very comfortable with each other, there's some tension there. It's not conflict, but it's anxiety and it's tension. So we will triangulate a third, like the weather or sports. So we'll say, the weather today. And both of you can agree that the weather is good or the weather is bad, and that's triangulating a third element. Or you can say, the Mariners are they're terrible. They're always terrible, and you can laugh about that at the Mariners' expense, if you don't know the Mariners, it's a baseball team, and you now have less anxiety between you and the other person. Well, you can also triangulate video games. So if you're having tension and distance that is ongoing, then you can triangulate a video game console or video games as as an element that is the third element that's drawn in. One, the person who is playing the video games is actually drawing the video games into the triangle themselves. They're, instead of dealing directly with their partner, they're just avoiding and playing the video games. The other person is now looking at the video games as the problem. The video games are the problem instead of the two people actually directly communicating. Why don't people do that? Well, because usually people come from histories where they never saw anyone do that in a healthy way, or they've been traumatized and they don't trust each other, or they've had a lot of conflict that didn't go well between them, which is really common. And so they'd rather fight about the video games than fight directly because they're worried about the outcomes of that. So anyway, let's see how they manage this. I'm guessing that Rebecca is headed towards ramping up her displeasure of him playing video games while she's trying to find the ring.
Do you even care?
Yeah, but I don't know. We are.
Perfect. Thanks.
So again, sarcasm from Rebecca, which isn't a good idea. You can speak from the heart. I mean, Zied is being a little bit of a jerk face in this moment, but I'll get to that in a second. But for Rebecca, instead of, okay, great, instead of being sarcastic, you can say, honey, let me be clear. It would really make me feel better if you could put that down and help me find the ring. One, I'm kind of freaking out. And two, I kind of would like some indication that you care about this sort of thing. Also, to be honest, I'm getting a little bothered by how much you play video games because I feel like the two of us aren't really connecting because we don't have any together time because you're always playing video games. There's nothing wrong with you playing video games. Okay, so there'd be nothing wrong with saying something like that. Now, Zied, what's going on with him? I mean, I can't imagine a video game being so important that he couldn't put it down given her tone and given the scenario, right, for the moment. So I wonder what's going on with him. Maybe he'll say something here.
Thanks.
What?
Take the headphones off.
What?
I've lost the engagement ring.
Okay, so this is actually kind of a troubling dynamic that is developing between the two of them. I wasn't quite sure if this was happening, but it seems to be happening. If I was to tell you a scenario where a woman, an adult woman, is chastising someone who is playing video games and the other person is like, what? Gosh. Well, we would think that would be a mother and a teenage boy. When in fact, these are spouses, these are partners, and they're supposed to be equal. They're different in age, but there seems to be a dynamic where she will resort to what we call overfunctioning or a mother dynamic with him, and he's starting to develop kind of a child, irresponsible dynamic with her. I've said this before, but a very frequent dynamic that would be at least part of the problem in the couples that I would treat would be these kinds of dynamics, whether it's a father-son or a mother-son or a father-daughter dynamic. It wasn't always there, but sometimes it is. One, it's because of our past. Usually the way that we're raised will determine what kinds of roles we tend to gravitate towards under pressure. If we were parentified, meaning if we were elevated in the hierarchy as children unfairly to us, and we had to sacrifice our childhood, often we will take an overfunctioner view in relationships, especially under stress. And if you were made to feel incompetent and made to feel like you didn't matter, then you're more likely to play the underfunctioner role in these kinds of dynamics. So the marker of this dynamic between the two of them is her tone of voice and the way he comes across. So her tone of voice is often chastising and hostile and talking down to him. And his demeanor often is one of confusion and apathy, and like he isn't really that involved. And that's how the dynamic begins. And if they don't correct somehow, this could become a very, very difficult dynamic for the two of them. For her, obviously, and some of you may have been or are in this dynamic, For her, obviously, it's annoying because she doesn't have a partner. She has a son for a partner who doesn't step up. They're not responsible. She has to do everything herself. And she has the downside of being the bad guy all the time. Now, for him, the way you experience that is you're always being put down. Even when you do try something you're not quite sure, you'll get slapped down by the person because they'll correct you. So you're doing it wrong. You need to do it this way. And your self-esteem will plummet and you'll feel less competent and you'll have less agency over time. And it gets under your skin. The person in Zied, I don't know if Zied is in this, but the underfunctioner, they don't underfunction because they're choosing to. They believe that they actually cannot function at the level of the overfunctioner. Because they've been treated that way, even by the overfunctioner, they just believe that they're incompetent. They just believe they can't do anything. When everyone around you believes you're incompetent, you will believe that you're incompetent. So I'm worried about this dynamic. Let's continue to watch.
The ring you gave me in the Sahara?
Okay, what I
can't
do?
find it anywhere.
What you want me to do?
You could at least be worried. You're not upset at all.
What I worry?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Just play your games.
Yikes. What is going on here? I can only assume that the two of them are not really fighting about this. From just this scene, you think, Zied, what is going on? Come on, dude. It wouldn't be hard to say something like, oh, okay, I'll put it down. Yeah, let's look. Where do you want me to look? I don't know where to look. And then when she says, do you care? He could say, yeah, of course I care. I gave you that ring. That's very important to me. Putting that in a video game, I don't think would be that hard. So what would be going on here? I just have to assume that this is the next phase of an ongoing conflict that they've had. I don't know, but I wonder if Zied, if we cornered him in this moment and said, what's going on? He would say, well, I'm actually just trying to avoid her because she's been angry at me for the past 5 days about all sorts of things. And so I'm just trying to lay low. And honestly, I don't want to help her because she's not being nice to me in general. And so that's why I was being passive aggressive to her with the video game stuff. I don't know, because Zied hasn't seemed to be this, I don't know, under functioning yet in the season yet. So I just have to assume something else is going on. Maybe we'll hear about that. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. If you didn't know already, I'm on Cameo. If you want me to give you a shout out, a birthday message to your friend or to yourself, or an anniversary thing, or a congratulations, I'd be happy to do that. It actually gives me joy to wish you happy birthday or happy anniversary or whatever. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.